Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to 1 Million Cups. I see very familiar faces. Any new faces out here? I think I've seen you all here. I'm one of the organizers. I'm Austin. Lowell's an organizer. She's an organizer right there. She's currently drinking. The reason I point us all out is because we always need speakers, so find one of us. If you know a small business, medium-sized business that's just starting out, been in business for years, come talk to us. We'd love to have them here and talk about how we can help them. Again, there's some of the organizers. We're missing quite a few. 'Tis the season, though. Here's some of the sponsors that make it possible, including Union Station, where we're sitting. Very excited to be in this new space. It's been great so far to be able to come and have breakfast here. I believe that's my last slide, which means, Kenneth, it's all you. Is that all I got? Right? Yep. Oh, you got it.
Thank you. Tell me what I did. All right. That one? My name's Kenneth Cox. I'm a longtime Joplin resident. I've lived here my entire 62 years of life, except when I went to college. I have been in business, since the age of about 22. I have been a serial entrepreneur since the age of 22. And so I just took a job with Equus Workforce Solutions. I wasn't thrilled to take a job that I'm not the boss, but I did. I bit the bullet and I took this job. They hired me because I have a background in doing events. And so they've asked me to come alongside them and to create some events for the people that we serve. And we are the service company that provides Missouri TANF. We operate the Missouri TANF program. I don't know if you know what the TANF program is, but it's temporary assistance for needy families. To use a pejorative term that dates back to when I was a young guy, it's the current welfare system is basically what it is. And so as an old man that comes into this system, I come in with all the biases of the media for the last 40 years that talk negatively about people who are on TANF. And let me tell you that none of those stories are really accurate. None of them are really true. TANF is now a program that is trying to get people into work. We call the people who are participants career seekers, and we're trying to get them off of public assistance into a career that they can be self-sustaining. And just to give you an idea before I go on, is I wanted to tell you a little story, it's really brief, about somebody that could be a TANF participant that you might not expect. She was 20 years old, she lived in Joplin, Missouri, she met a guy. She fell in love with the guy, she gets married to the guy, they move away, they have a child. While they're away, she gets a great job. She is managing a restaurant. She's making way over $75,000 a year. She's happy. She's successful. She goes home one day, catches him in bed with another person. She has perfect credit before this point. Let me add that. She went into the marriage with several $1,000s in the bank. All those good things. He says, I've decided I don't want to be around you or the kid. You need to leave town. Go back to where your parents are. She comes back to where her parents are, brings her child, and she's been diagnosed with PTSD. So every time she gets into the work environment and she comes up against a strong man that triggers those emotions, she can no longer stay in that job. She leaves that job. In the meantime, the mother that she moved in with has become ill, and she's no longer really able to take care of her child. Am I in the wrong spot? I'm a walker. I was a pastor for 10 years, and so I'm used to walking back and forth. Her mother's no longer to take care of her child. So on top of that, she gets into a car accident which totals her car. So now she has insurance, but since the car's been totaled, she doesn't have the money in the bank to purchase a car. So I've just introduced you to a lady who is ready, who doesn't want to go on TANF, but she needs to go on TANF. And she's facing 3 barriers to getting back into the workplace. She's got a mental health issue she needs to have some help dealing with that. She's got a child care issue because she has no one to take care of her child. and she's got a transportation issue, and she has a hard time getting into the workforce because of that. All three of those are big boundaries or barriers into getting her into a career. Let's see what's next. So Equus is a company that's in 20 different states. Started in Joplin on October the 2nd. Before this time period, the city of Springfield actually managed Joplin's TANF program, and they no longer do that. But so that's what we do. In the Joplin market, we only do the TANF program. In other markets, we're in several different regions. You can see the regions that Equus is in, and we're the Southwest region. We cover 7 counties down here in Southwest Missouri. Right now, we have 158 families on our rolls. The vast majority of them, more than half of them, are in Jasper County. So that just gives you an idea. And then I think it's Newton, McDonald, and Lawrence are almost all identical as far as how many people are on that, but still, you know, a fraction of that. What we do is we provide soft skill training. I mean, if you've ever been an employer and you have to interview somebody, they're people that just don't have the soft skills to be in an environment that they put their best foot forward. You know, they maybe don't have the interviewing skills, they maybe don't have a resume skills. One of the great things I like about this company is we have a guy on staff full-time, and all he does is teach classes. So, you know, if you say, I need help with my resume, we have a class that they can take with this young man, and they can get brought up to speed there. There's probably 50 different kind of classes he does. So we give them soft skills training. We give them opportunities to practice those soft skills. A TANF participant doesn't get money to just sit there. And let me tell you, the amount of money they get is woefully inadequate. If you are a mom with a couple of kids, you're probably going to get $300 a month. For that $300 a month, you're going to be required to do in between 20 and 30 hours per week of career building skills. You're going to have to either do job searches, you're going to have to do volunteer work, go to these classes that we're talking about. So those are the bare minimums to get that. You know, you sit down and you talk to the participants that are getting money, and you try and explain, this is the way my mind works. I said, we're requiring 20 to 30 hours a week for you to get $75 a week. And you say, let's do the math, 20 hours, $75, you're getting paid $3.75 to do this. Let's go to Dollar General and so you try and talk to them, but again, 3 barriers to keeping them from being able to get into the workforce. We purchase items such as, say you wanted to go into a construction job, you need steel-toed boots, you have no income to do that, you have no money to do that. TANF, our office will help provide you that. We reimburse travel if you're going back and forth to a job, $10 a day for that. So you could, in theory, go to somebody and say, can you help me out with a ride? And we'll do that. And then the reason I was brought along and the reason I'm here today is we're also required by the Missouri program. Missouri is our customer. Missouri pays Equus. We're required by them to do at least 2 events per year that are geared towards either helping our participants or informing the community about the needs and opportunities available to people that are on the TANF rolls. But, I've done it, like I said, I've done events for 40 years, and that's not an exaggeration. I'm a really old guy. 40 years I've done events, and I'm not one of those, this term's been co-opted, but I'm not one of those Me Too people, which means I don't like to go and say, I do that too. There are probably 50 job fairs in the Joplin region per year of some kind or another. And it seems kind of ludicrous to come along and say, oh, we do that too. We're going to do a job fair, because it's just not going to, it's going to get lost in the hustle and bustle. It's going to be hard to do. So my job, and what I'd like for you all to help me with, is a different kind of job fair. What we just did one in Springfield, we called it a reverse job fair, where we spent time, they met with the guy that does the classes. They put together like the old science fair boards, which they promoted themselves. And then we invited employers to come, and they were able to spend more quality time with each participant to get to know a little bit about them. They could visually do it. It created a lot of, the thing I was impressed with, because I went to Springfield and went to that, is it created a lot of confidence in the person, because they'd researched it, they'd rehearsed what they were going to say, they became comfortable in their own skin. You could see as the hour and a half went on, they became better and better at pitching themselves to prospective employers. So we did a reverse job fair, but I think you just come up and you come up with better ideas. I mean, that's what my hope is. One of the things that we offer is community work experience that would qualify for their 20 to 30 hours per week. They can go and volunteer somewhere, which builds some people skills, helps them with their soft skills, gets them in the habit of that. But again, 3 barriers to even doing that. You know, they don't have the transportation to get there. They don't have childcare to get there. So that's a big deal. This slide is in there, and not one, at our workplace, which is at 720 Wall, the 3 ladies that ran the TANF program for the city of Springfield are still at 720 Wall running the program for Equus. They just switched employers. I asked them earlier, I said, how many people have taken advantage of this? Basically, this would be a business would allow you to come in and work for them just for the privilege of working for them, but they don't pay them. So I said, how many people have used this in the last 10 years? And they said 0. They see it as, if I'm gonna be there, you should be paying me. So I have to include this, and I have to say this, but it's never been used. And then the other thing we do that's really unique is on-the-job training. If you were a business and you wanted to hire somebody that was in this program, there are funds available that they would pay 50% of their salary for up to 6 months should certain requirements be met, and they would help support that, and they would help do that. It's a good benefit for the employer. There's less risk as you try and hire somebody. It's great for the person. It gets them in the door. It's great for us because we get to spend the money that Missouri has said, please spend this money. So that's the on-the-job training. And then we try and get what I've been doing for the last couple of months is just getting around learning businesses, and we ask them the same question. What is it that you're looking for in an employer? And let me ask an employee, what is it that you're looking for in an employee? And every single business has said the exact same thing. Tell me what they're saying.
They show up.
Show up. That's the number one thing. And you know, I'm old. I've hired lots of people in my life in the businesses that I've run, and there's a mindset that you think there's something wrong with a person that just doesn't show up. But when I tell you that story, you say, well, perhaps they're embarrassed because they don't have the child care. Perhaps there's a guy at the workforce that reminds them of somebody that's been abusive or hurtful in their past, or perhaps I just don't have a ride. We had a lady come into the office about 2 weeks ago, and they said, Kenny, she's ready for work. Can you help her? I looked at her and I said, what's the favorite job you've ever had in your life? She said, oh, I was a painter somewhere. My boyfriend had a painting company. I was a painter for 10 years. I said, are you ready to go to work today? And she said, yeah, I'm ready to go to work. And I said, I know a painter that will give rides to employees because you didn't have a car, and he will come pick you up every day, and he will get you to work. And I said, would you do that? She said, yeah, I think I would. I said, I'll call him. So I called the guy. He said, is she really good? I said, I can only tell you that she says she has 10 years experience, but I can't vouch for her, but that's her story. And he said, we'll pick her up tomorrow. Have her give me a call. So there are resources out there, and this position is simply just finding out from employers what they want, training people to see how they can get back into the workforce, and trying to remove as many of those barriers as we can. So the pitch that I'm bringing to you today is, what would you say is, the reason I love entrepreneurs is because we think differently. We think out of the box. We think uniquely, and we like to do challenges like this. What would you design as a job fair experience that would be interesting for not just TANF people, but for other people and for businesses? Because the businesses that I've talked to said, well, they want us to do a job fair. They all go the same way. Because nobody wants to do it, because you get bombarded with people and you almost never get quality resumes, or you didn't even get enough time to check with them. You just added dozens and dozens of resumes onto the desk of an HR person. So what are some thoughts that you might have as far as creative job fairs? Then I'm going to tell you about another one that we are looking at, and you can give me some feedback from that. Anyone?
Let me jump in on this. So for any new startup or any business, labor is your biggest expense. If a small business owner or a startup is confident in you and your team doing the vetting for those individuals that would show up, not saying this would be the case, but if you're just checking boxes for a state report, and what in the small business or startup is just dealing with inconsistencies. However, if the vetting process is sharp and you bring somebody on, that can be a huge benefit to that new startup. Because what they're putting in their budget for what labor would be, whether they're hiring 1099s, part-time or whatever, if this program pays for 50% of that, that could be huge. Because in small business, as we all know, $20 is a lot of money if you need $22 and you've got 15 in the account. Now, you can add whatever amount of zeros and commas you want after that. The formula is the same.
Right.
So that, if that could be answered in the mind of a new startup or small business, I think you'd be amazed at how the community would embrace this.
All right, anybody else?
I'm gonna piggyback off Doug's question. Going back to the OJT, what exactly are the parameters surrounding that, right? Like if I have a small business and I'm like, okay, I do wanna take advantage of the OJT program that the Job Center has, whether it be through Equus, whether it be through Riola, whoever. What type of training does it need to be? Because it can't be just anything, right?
No, you would have to be, our job is not to go out and get them, no slight on whatever business I was saying. I'm not trying to get them to be a counter worker at McDonald's.
Right.
We're trying to find something that gives them some short-term goals, some medium-term goals, some long-term goals, building a career.
Mm-hmm.
So, there would have to be a path to becoming self-sustaining. And then there would have to be some, value added, but it also has to be driven, businesses could say, oh, I'm really interested in this, but we have people do assessments as they come into the program, and the assessment may say, I'm interested in healthcare. So we're kind of matching their desires to opportunity.
Right.
So I think it would, it would be individually, each business would be individual, and how long you would pay would be dependent on what kind of skills you're building into them.
Right. And is it hard skill based, like they're really going toward a credential, or can it be soft skills that employers are building with them?
It could be soft skills as well.
So if I needed like a front desk person, a
Yeah.
receptionist, and say, okay, I can have a receptionist OJT and eventually they finish the OJT and maybe they're gonna move on to my personal assistant or something, I don't know.
Right.
But that could work, right?
Correct. So, but again, it's on a case-by-case basis, and then as somebody comes up, who knows how long you would be looking, but, so when we have somebody ready to go, we've got a program called Career Accelerate that they get paid to take as well as it fulfills their hourly obligation. And when they get through that, they get paid, and then, in theory, they're ready to go out there. We've removed those 3 barriers aren't in place. They're ready to get into the workforce and go from there. Any other thoughts on like the job fair type thing?
Sorry, that's what we were supposed to be doing.
Not a problem.
Well, I love your idea about the reverse job fair.
Mhm.
That's really interesting. But I wonder, you could throw a little twist on it, but let's say that in your program, you've got 5 people that wanna be in the restaurant business or catering or something. Well, what if you take those 5 people and have them set up a working, food thing of some kind to provide snacks or whatever, but they have to work together to put it all together and do that, or have, someone coach or something to do
Sure.
it. In other words, then an employer could actually see them working.
Using their skills.
Yeah,
that
using
might
the kind of
translate to
skill
the
they
job.
really got. It's just a thought.
Yeah, that's
but,
that's a great idea.
maybe they do a lunch, but they have to go through and do all the steps, plan it out and do all that stuff.
Right.
And then they provide the lunch, but then, like I said, an employer would actually see them working and watch them or whatever.
Sure.
Just a thought.
As a kind of similar to the thought of someone setting up and presenting about themselves, almost like a pitch contest. I don't know.
Yeah.
It reminds me of what you're talking about of building bridges, or is it building bridges or circles? What is it now?
Right.
Which one is it? Where
It's
you're,
building bridges now.
is it building bridges? That's what I feel like a lot of participants in like Equus, TANF, food stamps sometimes need, because when people come in, we see that it's a lack of confidence, not like in themselves, and to build that back up, sometimes that confidence comes with connections. And even if you are their biggest advocate, know you calling me going, hey, I've got this person here, I don't know if I am gonna take that chance.
Right.
And so it's almost like it needs to be a weekly or monthly or something meetup, similar to building bridges, where it's social connectivity as an accelerator to success versus, well, they're just gonna set up one time, hopefully pitch themselves, and then if they don't get picked, well, it's like their confidence goes down, one, and then two, they've used transportation, childcare, and any resource that they might have to be there, and all of a sudden they're still without a job. We can create something that is more equitable to where you're talking with, you know, we have employers talking with like Latonya and Michelle over at the job center, and they're there and we know them, and they're bringing those participants with them, and they are creating social skills and building that confidence and then moving into a job. That's what I imagine working long-term for participants in TANF or food stamps or anything like that, just because a Band-Aid isn't gonna fix it, you know, like
Right.
one-time presenting is not going to fix the problem. And that's just me.
Yes, well, that's good. The barrier on those kind of ideas is, they tell me, they've been there for 10 years, you obviously know them, you use their names, and you know, I will throw out an idea, and they said, nobody will come, you know?
Yeah.
They'll just say, nobody will come. So we tried to give away $100 gift cards at Christmas one year, and not one person came to pick them up. And so there's a mindset among some people that are another barrier to getting involved. Let me switch gears just one, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to ask about your reverse job fair. How successful was that at getting several of those? I mean, it's nothing's 100%, but about what percentage of those people were able to get a start on a job?
Everybody was offered a job and nobody took a job on the first one. You know, one of the things that is really difficult, and using the example of our young lady, employers have fixed schedules, and I understand why they have fixed schedules, but moms have fixed schedules too. And moms with low resources are pinched when it comes to fitting into a cookie cutter, you know, perhaps they get a factory job that's a 12-hour shift or a 10-hour shift, and they go, well, my childcare isn't available for that long, or, you know, so every single one of the participants at that reverse job fair was offered a job, and none of them could accept it because they couldn't swing either the transportation or the childcare issue.
So just a side note on that point, one of the things that Governor Parson was saddened that he couldn't get accomplished in this last legislative session was to address childcare. I have a feeling that he's going to champion that before he leaves office in January 25. So if you and your organization has any kind of dialogue, or you don't, I would encourage you to do that. My gut tells me that is something he wants to be part of his legacy before he leaves office.
You know, there's a really unique program that's been offered in Indiana where they make the parent get some skin in the game. So the parent pays a third, the state pays a third, and the employer pays a third. You know, and that was it was put into a bill. They put it in there. It got tabled, and it was no action was taken on it. But there's a lot of there needs to be a creative solution to that issue, because there is funding from the state for child care, but in Joplin there's no availability. So we can say, well, we can, you know, the state will help pay for your child care, but they can't, you know, you can't call somebody up and say, yeah, we can get that child in.
Well, that's heavy on the radar at the chamber.
Right.
And one of the biggest needs, like if we had a magic wand, that we all wish that everyone had a magic wand. If there was a daycare center out at the Crossroads Industrial Park, that would help those businesses out there tremendously, especially if it was a daycare with flexible hours.
Yeah.
I think one of the problems with daycare laws in Missouri, if I am remembering correctly, which I am not a lawyer and I'm not like the law person to go to, I think Missouri law right now, which would be great if it changed, is that daycares can only be open so most daycares are 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., nothing in between if you're a registered daycare center in the state of Missouri.
That's a
And
good
so
point.
we have the problem with the factories, a lot of them hire third shifts starting out, and a lot of our Joplin factories have gone to 12-hour shifts, so they have A shift, B shift. Those 12-hour shifts and at night for everyone who's starting, single moms, single dads, people who really need to start a job, they're at that 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. There is nobody in town that is legally allowed to watch their kids unless they have family.
That's an
And
excellent.
so it's really, really difficult.
Is that rule for, like, only one registered daycare business can operate out of that facility? Because what?
Probably
You
not.
could-
So you
right?
could-
Like,
Yeah,
you could
yeah,
have
I was
two
gonna say,
businesses.
that's
Yeah.
exactly where my mind went.
One is third
Exactly.
shift, yeah.
But it's getting that. It's like
Yeah.
creating those types of things. And childcare businesses are cash flow.
Yeah.
But I mean, just
And change the terminology from daycare to childcare.
to childcare. So, I mean, there's a lot going on there, and childcare hard to get workers for too. I mean, just as a workforce aside, but that's one of the issues that the factories are facing as well. Even if we get a daycare center out there,
How are we gonna?
how do we not only staff it but skirt the law, or change the law?
I mean, kids go to bed at 7, like, you need someone in your home to take care of the kids. You
Yeah.
don't wanna bring your kids somewhere to have them sleep somewhere, then you need beds for them.
I mean, you have to have beds, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a conundrum, and so I mean, it totally is, and so when we're talking barriers, especially childcare barriers, for young people, that's what we're like.
So, question on childcare, transportation, things like that. So, since you don't really provide anything for that, are you partnering with agencies who might, or how does that work?
Well, no, you're just trying to brainstorm solutions. You know, I went to the One Joplin Poverty Team last week, and the Economic Security is working on a transportation
Right.
thing. But when I was a pastor at a church, one of the things that I wanted to do was to work more with like the homeless and so we ran a program that we're bringing people from Souls Harbor, Water Gardens to church all the time, and then when COVID started, you know, Souls Harbor and Water Gardens shut down and they wouldn't take any new people, and we were getting all kinds of calls, and I'm like, I've got this building, I'm just gonna open a shelter. So we opened a shelter and we housed women with children, had about 20 to 30 ladies in there for the entire time, and we asked them to go to work. We had people step up in the church that they were the transportation team. They took them to jobs, they took them all over. You know, there would be a more creative solution, and I think it would be easy to do, where you could approach churches that this would be a ministry of a church or a social organization or something where you say, you know, like a neighbor to neighbor type program where you're going to provide, you know, transportation. You can limit it. I mean, we learned as we went, you know, you had to put structure to it, but you could take them to work, you could pick them up from work, you could take them to health, you know, the doctor, that kind of thing. And even some minor, you know, take them to the grocery store, and you could do that, and you could scale that pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
For nothing, because the people at our church love to do. I mean, they loved doing that, and we were taking care of probably about 40 people, just the shelter ladies, and then people from Souls Harbor, Water Gardens, where we go. You know, if you were doing something that wasn't just, hey, I need you to take me down to OK Bar or something like, you know, if it was something that was moving you towards a goal, we were transporting people all the time, and there were, you know, 6 or 7 people that loved it. And I think that church wasn't unique. I think you could scale that for $0 if you could get somebody to organize it and say, let's move in this direction.
Kim, that sounds like an app that would be similar to Uber, that would be a closed app for a particular congregation or any not-for-profit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So that would be it would be a simple fix and it would be a quick fix, but I don't know if
So
people
what
think
are the limitations on the MAPS program?
I don't know.
The MAPS program, you have to be disabled,
Oh,
or like, I think whatever the cutoff for like a senior citizen is for the MAPS program.
oh, okay.
So, and I
I've
think
seen
it's, and then O's will do veterans. if we have phone starters, but I'm pretty sure maps of senior citizens and people with disabilities specifically.
If you'll indulge me, I'd like to throw out one other event idea. That we've done this in St. Joe, it's been wildly successful. You know, in the social services community, the people in the social services community know what the other social services people do. The people in the business community kind of don't know what a lot of the social service people do. We did an event in St. Joe called Empowering Employers, where we brought together the social services community and the business community, and we had a roundtable where, you know, you would say, what challenges are there to business? What are you having difficulty with? What's keeping you from retaining employees? What things are your employees coming to you and you say, well, I kind of don't know. And then you had social services people who would come and say, hey, for instance, very few businesses in town know that we offer on-the-job training. You know, so that's a great program. There's another company, social service, that will bond felons if you wanted to hire people that are coming into the workforce. They've done their time, they're ready to go to work. They'll give you a bond, they'll pay for the bond for you to employ them for 6 months, which lessens your risk. And you know, there are companies that, what do you do if your employee says, you know, I'm really having trouble paying my rent this month, I'm about to get evicted? Well, you know, an awful lot of the large employers are bringing HR people from outside of Joplin to run the HR place. And so, you know, it's a chance for everybody to get together and say, we do that, we do this, we do this. It engages the community to kind of think along the same lines. It's empowering employers. And I think that would be, to my knowledge, there's nothing like that going on in Joplin. Perhaps there is, and I'm ignorant, but that'd be something that I think would be a no-brainer to kind of put these businesses and social services in the same room. The one in St. Joe was scheduled for an hour and a half. It went 4 hours. They just kept talking about, hey, well, who helps with this? You know, where do I go for a utility assistant? You know, where can we find this? What organizations are doing that in Joplin? And it was a really good thing. And so that's another thing, you know, if you have ideas about how to pull something like that together, I think would be a real benefit to the business community and the social service community.
So part of that is the Alliance of Southwest Missouri. Have you met with or had a conversation with Jen Black, your executive director?
No, I haven't talked to them.
Please do. She would be able to work with you on putting together exactly what you described, because a lot of what you just mentioned, they already have in place.
Are they doing that with businesses on a regular basis?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
So there is something like that in place. It's called Charity Tracker. And it's a program, it's a software. The thing is, it's mainly just churches and stuff that do it because they're, quote, non-profit or whatever. So I don't know if there's any businesses really involved in it. But the point of it is, you know, we're doing the tornado relief. Before that started, there were very few people on it. And then all of a sudden, you know, most everybody got on it because, I mean, the whole idea is you register somebody, and then anybody who has contributed or helped them or whatever, they go in and log all that stuff. So all the resources they've received are in there. But you as an agency, if you plug in there, then there is a searchable tab. So I can go in there and say, okay, someone who needs help with gas. Okay, I can type in that and it'll give me a list of all that. So there is something there, but normally it's just nonprofits or churches that do it.
Yeah.
But if you could get it to where everybody was on it, I think there'd be a lot of less lap over, because again, I mean, just use an example, this happens all the time, is they come, oh, I don't have any gas to get to work, so I need gas money. Okay, great, we'll give you a gift card, we'll register it. Well, then they just down the street and do the thing, tell the same story. Well, okay, you were just there and got a gas card. So
Right.
They wouldn't know that otherwise.
Right.
So the point of it is, the way we used it is, and the reason why we did it that way is, we wanted to help people, not just hand out money or hand out stuff. So we called it a hand up instead of a handout. So when we'd sit down and they'd come in, like a lady would come in and she had just been to church and got like $300 or $400 worth of groceries and stuff. And you come like, well, we don't have anything to eat. You were just there. No, I didn't get that one. Yeah, you were.
Right.
You want us to call them? No, just forget it. She left. Well, you know, so what we'd rather do is sit down and say, let's talk about what's really going on here, how we can really help you. So, yeah. Just a thought.
I really like the idea of having a private business community meeting with the public sector, coming together and just learning about what we do. I think it'd be beneficial to have it like at the library or something quarterly. I agree that the Alliance would be a great, like a great organization, maybe put that on. But even talking about like Equus and the job center and like wraparound services of like, oh, okay, well, they're on the job training with WIOA or VOA, however you want to call that. And then the state has a new grant where they can do the wraparound services and help pay specifically for gas or childcare or something like that, and let people know that's what's going on. I do think specifically for workforce needs, we often forget about like, the shadow workforce of people who are really and truly trying, and there's always gonna be people out there running a scam for whatever, even people who are in business
Right.
and rich. But there are people out in our community who are truly deeply trying to find jobs and trying to find employment and really just need a hand up or someone to look at them instead of through them or past them. And we need to be having those conversations as private businesses or business owners or entrepreneurs and as the social workforce and the social workers and state workers who see those problems every single day. I was just there, I was talking to Brian, who works for the state, and we were talking about creating a training of like, how are your hiring services a barrier to employment? I mean, you see people, you have to upload your resume and then fill out everything else, and if you don't have the computer skills, but you just wanna work on the factory floor, well, you just shot yourself in the foot as a factory, going, well, they can't type, and it's just one of those things, or you can't find the job postings. I think those conversations need to be had, and we're both having them, just not together.
Right.
And if we could bring that up.
And that's what we found in St. Joe, is that everybody's having these conversations, but you don't know what the other side is doing or what the other side is needing. And so putting them together in a room, it was a really good thing.
I like that.
Well, I think that's perfect. The thing is, those barriers need to come down. The issue is, I mean, I'm just using your example. I'm assuming you guys are state funded, you said nonprofit. Okay, well, you've got limits and barriers of what you can do and what you can't do. And sometimes those limits and barriers is you can't participate with like I said, a church or whatever, and therefore that's not an option.
They can though.
Yeah,
They could pursue.
our barriers,
Well, I
we
know
couldn't turn it
there's
into a profit-making thing.
No,
So
but I'm just saying there's
we
some
couldn't charge for it.
state or federally funded programs where you cannot work with anything
Right.
faith-based.
Yeah.
One thing I think might be good to bring to the table in the discussion is you referenced the single mom and the flexibility or inflexibility of working somewhere that has a 12-hour shift. If she's able to get like a part-time job, but then there's still a gap of 4 or 5 hours when she's available, I think it would be great to have a conversation with them about entrepreneurship. Just because you're an entrepreneur doesn't mean you have to make a ton of money. Most entrepreneurs don't. But even get them in the mindset that it's not just about a job, they could have a part-time job, but maybe they have a skill set, whether they wanted to clean houses, but they're only available on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 4:30. How do we show them how they could get set up to do that? Have somebody to show them how they could set aside the percentage for taxes if they're gonna end up paying any, how to organize, all of that. That's part of the dialogue I'd be happy to be part of, because there are a lot of people that have started something literally from nothing. That young man, Quinn Childress, that presented at Tech Summit, his story is amazing, but basically homeless at 15, kicked out of his house because his mother was a drug addict, and he couch surfed and started mowing lawns. That was less than 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago. He has grown a huge landscaping business out of that, put himself through the University of Arkansas, got a master's degree, and is working on a robot prototype lawnmower with a giant idea. So the people that are in your program, if we can inspire them with stories like that the answer, a job would be great, but also let them know that there's some other opportunities out there.
That's what I'm talking about, the connectivity through like, building pathways through connections with other people, because like, how do they know that? How do they know that if you weren't like sitting at a table start your own painting business.
Yeah.
That's right, that's right.
And the human heart is typically wants to help people. I can't speak for the entire country, but I know this area, we've got more than 400 not-for-profits registered in Joplin. So there's so many people that have huge hearts that if they just see the need and how they can help, to your point about transportation. So I see the biggest opportunity for you and your organization is to let people know what you do and educate them on it. I've certainly been educated today.
Well, thank you for letting me do this. I'm sorry to have taken so long, but this was great, because thank you.
I was
very
just
much.
gonna say on transportation, Kavanaugh's working on the new program with, economic security, but I know that Joplin received like $500,000 for transportation.
They're
For
supposed to
some
be getting
grant.
their trolleys back, right?
Yeah, for the trolleys or something. I've never heard anything more about it after that.
Well, I think they're trying to hire drivers
Yeah.
that have to have their class B, but they're not going to train them, so they already have to have their class B. And it's a 3-month training process.
And the trolleys need to go out to Crossroads Industrial Park.
Yeah,
They
oh,
need to
they
service the
absolutely do.
industrial parks.
They do, and, it's like a 3-month training process, and I think they're paying them something fun, like $15 an hour.
Yeah, they mentioned that at the, one Joplin meeting, and the guy said they're within one driver. If they lose one more driver, they have to shut it all down again.
Wow.
And they're getting drivers, they're like playing below market for the skills they're asking
Right.
Right.
people to have.
Yeah, they're paying like.
I mean, and we know that in, like, you get a CDL and you go and work, most companies will pay back your loan for your CDL license for that training,
Right.
because they need drivers, and it's like,
Well, like the job fair does CDL training for at no cost to you right now.
That's one of the things I'm thinking of this week, is that we need to, every week we publish a job list and send it to everybody, and that's one of what that I want, is to get flexible work from home type
Yeah.
job type things.
Yeah.
Maybe to help bridge that gap of liability if they're one driver away, that's where we bring in our transportation companies to the table and have a conversation. And they're over-the-road drivers that have just retired. Maybe those trucking companies could help offset. Maybe they pay an extra $10 a month or some kind of retired. There's gotta be a way where we can fix that.
I would have to think there'd be a number of retired people that would just love the opportunity to, spend 4 or 5 hours a day driving around people and talking and,
Honestly, it sounds kind of appealing.
I was gonna say.
I was like, I still wanna be a trolley driver.
but at the
Yeah,
same
I think it'd be
time,
fun.
At the farmer's market, and she said that she does that, she drives people to bed.
I'd have to be in
She
a
drives people to the
miner's
hospital,
But
she
the
gets a
whole
lot of
point-
hospital driving.
but if we want those jobs not to be for somebody who just finished their career, we want to grow them
Well,
into
yeah.
that. We need to figure out how we can provide the training necessary to get them. So maybe we have that retired person, but there's a side-by-side or something, mentorship that would count as the program training to get that new person as a driver who then can become a full-time.
Which would be one of your
I don't know,
clients.
like, it's a moving target, right? Like, it's always going to change. You're not going to solve this problem, so you need to create a program where people can enjoy the journey and learn from that, and maybe help them with career change. Like, yeah, it's just helping them
So
be
that,
happy.
so that person learns how to do that trolley driver job, and then they're in that for a year, and then they get, because they're doing a good job, then they get to the point where they can then work for a delivery service, because now they've got experience and that pays better and it has better benefits and blah, blah, blah. As compared to, I can't get a job at all because I don't have the training, and I can't get the training because, you know what I mean?
Right.
I went to one of the, it was out at the new place that College High built, Building Your Future, I think is what it was called. And where they brought all the high school kids in, into the construction and truck driving and all that. And there were a couple of schools there, and when I was talking to them, they said, now, majority of the time, not one of their students finishes the program before they have a job offer. You know, on driving equipment or driving a truck, that, you know, the companies will call and say, tell me when you're at week 6, or either they'll be on the calendar and they'll go in, you know, if it's an 8-week course, and they'll snag them up. So that's the thing that I think Joplin will be fighting, is that if you're gonna offer $15 and you gotta be trained, well, by the time you're trained, somebody else is gonna say, well, I'll give you, you know, $40 an hour or $30 an hour to do this. So it's tough to keep them.
But
That's why I think that retirement, working with, like if the trucking industries knew this need, it'd be like, oh yeah, we can step in and fill that. All of it is just educating people. And honestly, this dialogue, this is how things get changed. I mean, this is powerful. And I'm so glad you're here to hear all of this today. But, I love it. I love what you're doing. I love what the organization's doing, and just keeping people from falling through the cracks, man. That's powerful.
Can be.
But it hurts my heart that if you had that reverse, they all got offered jobs and no one took one.
Yeah.
That's what makes it a hard sell.
It's a hard sell then,
Yeah.
because what that sounds like to many is, great, we paid for another thing where people said, no, I don't wanna work. I mean, we heard the whole story, but that's gonna be the impression
Well,
that a lot of people have.
The
is-
employers that attended all came away raving, because they got to know the participants better. They saw who would fit with their company, and it wasn't a, no, I don't want your job. It was like, well, when I can figure out how to get rid of A and B, they said, well, you call me when A and B is done. And so they would come back again.
Okay.
And see, my
That's
idea,
excellent.
for the Joplin market is I went through and I looked at all of the 158 participants, and I traded them by the career pathway. And so my thought would be, you know, like there's an abundance of healthcare people, so I would pool all the healthcare people, and you're doing the reverse job fair just for the healthcare, then you're only bringing in employers that are, so they know that everybody that's gonna be there is a potential placement for them, you know, whether it be a hospital or a nursing home or whatever. You kinda get drilled down and figure out, let them help you decide who you're gonna invite as an employer to be there too.
Mhm.
You know, where would you like to work? Okay, we're gonna work on that. Or what kind of work would you like to do? Employers, I mean, healthcare and, retail and business type of thing.
So learning from that, we know then that the two major things are healthcare, childcare and transportation.
Right.
Being able to step in before that reverse job fair and seeing, you know, and letting employers know transportation's gonna be the issue for a lot of these people. How can you come to the table for a limited period of time, because we're probably not talking forever, but can you provide 6 months of, you know, if they can get to point A, you can get a ride for them to and from work, where they walk or whatever to a certain location and then they get picked up. But we're hoping that in 6 months, they can afford to get their own transportation.
Well, 2 comments on that is, one, we give them $10 a day to get to and from work, but it's reimbursed, and it might take almost a month to get it. So that pool of money is there so they could offer, hey, I can pay for a ride, you know, that kind of thing. And then the other thing is you're really not talking about too long, because most people will make friends at the job who will say, yeah, I can pick you up and give you a ride. Especially if they know, hey, I can maybe pay you a little money, I can buy your gas, but it may take it a little bit. So, you know, you're not talking about a big of an investment on the employer. Maybe it's 2 weeks before they're friends enough with somebody who said, oh, I live right by there, I can swing by and get you, take you home.
And I think just that is George's Chicken. They have a bus that they at least they used to have a bus that picks people up at 15th Street Walmart and the Carthage Walmart.
Yep.
To
Amazon used to do that.
Amazon used to do that.
And those are the bigger employers. But I was thinking, I mean, so, you know, you've got Freeman and Mercy, but what about the, you know, the nursing home on Fur Road? Okay, they're not gonna have that, but what could happen? I mean, they don't even have enough employees I drive.
Right.
But I mean, but knowing that if the people who were coming to that job fair knew what the two major impediments to getting these people employed were, so that they could maybe start to brainstorm, how could we help? If you're a Freeman or a Mercy, that's one thing, but if you're a nursing home that employs 3 people during the day or 4 people during the day, not likely to have somebody that's gonna pick you up and take you every day. I mean, that just doesn't, it isn't probable. But if they knew that, then could they start to figure something out with, okay, somebody else? I mean, I don't know, but I mean, so that they're coming to the table going, yeah, we wanna hire, and here's how we can help with childcare. You know, like maybe there is a way that they could eventually think about. Childcare's the issue, because we are open 24 hours a day. We could have you, instead of come in at the 7 o'clock hour, you have to let your kids off at school, and then, you know, maybe we could do that. But they could come with some flexibility in mind.
That's a great idea.
I've got to run, but let me share this real quick. The childcare issue is not just for helping your demographic, but people who really need it. We have skilled degree people that are choosing not to be in the workforce because of childcare issues. And that's why the governor is so passionate about it. So this would solve 2 problems beyond that. That the latter, what I mentioned, they're not gonna have transportation issues. They're just making a decision to stay home with the kids. But if that issue is resolved, back to what you're saying about legislation perhaps, or whatever, and there's more
See how the laws
flexibility, it becomes an economic development issue. So you and I have to get on a Zoom. And let me just say this real quick. Just looking at the big picture, Lily is with NewCap's program in the OSHA. She's shadowing me. And I like to brag on her because she's vice president of FBLA for the state. But think how valuable it is for her to be in here, hear this presentation, and hear this dialogue, how a community of stakeholders are talking through something. That's a powerful lesson. So anyway, all right, let's go. Thank you for your work. See you guys.
Bye.